Hello viewers, thanks for coming back to my channel. This is Peter Elgar from Brentwood, Essex, England here with another camera review on a borrowed camera from my great friend Richard, who has loaned me this wonderful machine, and it's fairly rare, called a DURST Automatica. Now, DURST make enlargers. I thought, well, I didn't know they made cameras, but they do. This is it. And it came in a case, it's all in bits there. When I was going to take it out this morning, this bit all fell off. Luckily, it dropped onto the carpet of my lounge. Because the camera dropped through, this all gave way, the stitching gave way. So that case is no good now unless we can get it re-stitched. But very lucky it wasn't outside on the concrete. Well, it's got a German lens, Schneider Kreuznach radionar, 2.8 45mm focal length. It's got a standard flash socket here where you can plug a flash lead. I've used that. And this one is the shutter release, and that little hole here you can put a cable release in there. And this little lever marked A and O is where you choose automatic exposure or manual exposure. And the light for the reading goes through here onto the selenium cell inside, and you get light readings here. Now, to put it onto automatic exposure, you put it to A. And then you do a strange thing, some strange happenings here. You've got to look at the shutter speed scale, and you find 300th in red automat. So you turn and the little red line until it's opposite 300 automatic here. Now, how do you know what apertures and stuff you're going to get and film speed? Well, you set, according to the German DIN, Deutsche Industrie Normal here, that's on 18 DIN there, or you use the American in green, the ASA, and it's 50. Now I'd loaded it with KB40 film made in Efka, Croatia, out of date, very good for testing because it's fine grain, so I set it to 50. And then it also alters the shutter speed, not the aperture rather. The same ring alters the aperture. By turning the ring here, you can alter apertures against a little red dot here, which is opposite the V, X and M controls. V is for delayed action, X is for the use with electronic flash, and M is for use for flash bulbs. So I got it onto X, and that is when I use it with electronic flash. But it's strange because if you want it to use manual exposure, you alter, as you turn your aperture you want, the ASA changes. Well, let's first of all we'll look at it on automatic. So we set 300, and we set the film speed for the film 50 ASA, 18 DIN here, so it needs good light. Put it back to 18, it's moved. There. So we wind it round, and we press the shutter release here, and see what happens. Well, there are, fairly slow shutter speed it's giving. See if you can see it see the shutter go inside. Yes, we don't know, God knows what aperture you get, but it chooses it automatically, so you don't know what aperture you're getting. So if you want to do a manual read, I use a Western exposure meter. So to do manual exposure, you turn that round here, and then I think what you do here, if you use the selenium cell, which I didn't because I don't think it's working because it's so old, you have to point it at your subject, and then you move your shutter speed here until a little line, something lines up inside this little moving scale here, but I can't see it working, so that looks like the selenium cell isn't working. So good job I used a Western exposure meter, because I couldn't get that one to work at all. So anyway, I took 2 frames of most things, one on automatic and one on manual. So we're now on 1/8 of a second. We'll see what 1/8 of a second sounds like. Yes, That sounds like eighth of a second. But we set it to 1/2 a second. It will struggle a bit. It's struggling, you see, because it hasn't been used on a slow speed for such a long time. So it needs using. Now this is the non-hot shoe, and I put a little flash in there, and the little wire came round, went into the plug there for my sun pack flash that I had on top. So I took 2 pictures. Here is the focusing. It's not a rangefinder. You have to set your scale here to focus from infinity, and it goes down to 3 feet. It's in feet, so it must have been an export model because it's in feet, not meters. So I'm usually good at guessing. And that little window is for bright line viewfinder with some parallax shapes in the viewfinder window. You've got little notches here. If you're doing close-up work, you've got to get your subject within there, otherwise you get parallax problems because the viewfinder doesn't see exactly the same view as the lens, because the lens is a bit lower. Now, how do you load your film? You pull down this here, got good fingernails, and then you open the back, you load your film in here, and to get the cassette up you've got to press this little knob here, which looks like a rewind knob, but it's not actually. It makes this come up here, you pull it right out, cassette in there, film across into the little slot here, wind it round gently so it's nice and tight, and then close your back and then push down this, and then you'll take one blind, wind it on, and you get a frame counter coming up in this little window here. Tells you how many frames you've taken. So it's on number 1 now. I think it's on number 1. Let's see how it moves. Oh, there we are. It's gone number 1. It's on number 2 now. There we are. It's counting. Yes, that all works. Yeah, when you've taken all your snaps, hopefully you've taken some good snaps, you've got to rewind the film back into the cassette. So you've got to pop up the rewind knob here, and there's an arrow, so you mark R, so you get hold of that, and it takes you rather a lot of time, laboriously going like that until you hear the click, then the film is into the cassette. Then you can open the back and take out your exposed film and develop it or send it away for processing. That's a nice pressure plate there, quite long. Needs a little bit of a clean up, I think, but it's accurate. So we'll have a look at some snaps I took with it. That's what you want to see, isn't it, folks? I've done some snaps on KB40 film. I processed it myself in FX37 formula, diluted 1+9, and that gives very good results now, especially I found with out-of-date film. This was the first one I got. A guy in Brentwood High Street doing some mural painting to publicise a book reading in a bookshop. That was taken on the automatic setting. Now the one I took on the manual setting, I got 125th at 4.5. That came out overexposed for some reason, but so the manual one was more accurate there. I walked up the road. We got some flowers here. That's one I took on the manual light reading. The automatic one was exactly the same. There was a little bit of lens flare there. Okay, just a tiny little bit of lens flare, but the detail's good. That radio on the lens. It's not stopped down, only to about 4.5. Statue of Christ. Now this one, I took 2, a manual reading and the automatic reading. The automatic reading was slightly denser negative, but this is printed from the manual reading with a little bit of fill-in flash from a sun pack. Very weak. The definition's good. Again, it's not fully stopped down. Then now a water fountain which was donated by John Larkin in 1800 and something. Of course that was for horses, but you don't get many horses going through Brentwood High Street now, only huge lorries from the Netherlands. Never seen any horses go through, so there's no water in there for horses. But that came out well, and the texture of the stonework is rendered extremely well. That was focused, I think I focused about 12 feet away. I all guessed the distances. Well, after many years in the game, I'm quite good at guessing the distance. So there we are. That's the DURST Automatica, little weird camera. And it gives quite good results, except the case needs restitching to get it working properly. So hope you've enjoyed that, and see you on my next video sometime. Thanks for watching.